Name's Monkey King.
So I was scrolling through my streaming services recently and I came across something that caught my eye.
A brand new Netflix original animated movie titled The Monkey King, on the site's top 10 list and everything.
And when I noticed this, I had two initial thoughts. The first being,
Monkey King? I've never heard of you.
Yeah, this movie's advertising, from what I can tell anyway, seemed to be practically non-existent. I mean, for Christ's sake, the movie only seemed to have one trailer released 1 month before release. But hey, bad marketing campaign, schmad marketing campaign. Maybe the movie is good. I mean, sure, it's a Netflix original, which could honestly mean anything quality-wise, but the platform has actually been on a roll lately in terms of animation, at least in terms of movies. In the last few years, we've been getting some really charming and innovative movies from them, like The Mitchells vs. the Machines, Vivo, Intergalactic, The Sea Beast, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, and Nimona. No joke, my first viewing of Nimona, I was just watching it for my own enjoyment. I was already halfway through making a video on a different movie, but I ended up loving it so much that all throughout the runtime I was just thinking to myself,
man, I wish I was making a video about this.
So I gave The Monkey King a shot to see if it deserved to stand alongside these other ones.
And no, it didn't. Not by a long shot.
I mean, for what it's worth, I enjoyed it, but compared to the high bar that we've been seeing from Netflix before this, it's a major step back. The movie is loosely based on Journey to the West, and focuses on a supernatural talking monkey who is born without a family. The world he inhabits is a fantasy version of ancient China, where humans and animals are often attacked by evil demons, while immortal gods reside above in heaven, living the good life, not really paying the world below much mind.
Oh, it's you. What is it? I'm busy.
And since the monkey has lived his life without any friends or loved ones, he's instead decided to find a way up to the heavens and become an immortal himself. He does this with the help of years of martial arts training, a magical living bow staff, and a girl named Lin who he's reluctantly let tag along. All the while he's being hunted down by an underwater dragon king who wants to use the staff to flood the world. Okay, I mentioned that I enjoyed this movie in spite of its faults, so let's be fair and discuss what I like about it.
The movie's funny. It's not hilarious, but I got a good amount of laughs out of it.
The main character, the monkey, has this very egotistical personality, which makes for some good moments where they play up how self-aggrandizing and smug he is to an absurd degree.
He is the bravest, most it's a word. Spectacularific, amazing-derful hero the world has ever known.
And that also makes for a lot of funny moments where he gets embarrassed when it slips that he's not as ultra capable at everything ever as he wants people to think.
Can't read.
Of course I can. That's grass, that's a sky, that's a rock. See? Reading.
These humbling moments, combined with how cartoonishly arrogant he is, makes it so his ego doesn't come off as obnoxious, because whether or not things are going in his favor, he's still the butt of the joke as far as the movie is concerned. The villain is pretty entertaining too. In fact, he reminds me a lot of Hades from Disney's Hercules.
He has this similar contrast of being this powerful, malicious, mythical creature despite having the most casual voice and mannerisms possible.
Was supposed to be lightning crash. And there it is.
Honestly, even the two bumbling henchmen remind me a lot of Panic and Pain from Hercules, but the Dragon King still manages to feel like his own distinct character. Compared to Hades, he's a lot more flamboyant and a bit of a prima donna, which makes for a different kind of juxtaposition where, again, this proud and mighty creature of legend is portrayed as this slightly pathetic diva.
Low humidity, arid climate. Don't look at me. No. Be right back.
But on the other hand, it does still kind of make sense. He is supposed to be this beautiful and majestic, not to mention royal being. It makes sense that his personality would be a little extravagant. I also really like the movie's art direction. The world the movie shows off is really vibrant and colorful, and there's a good variety of locations with some good atmosphere. The Dragon King's lair is suitably dazzling and eye-catching to match its owner. The heavens have this pristine and glowing aesthetic, and so do the gods residing there for that matter. The supernatural planes the characters explore all have this ethereal and otherworldly look to them.
And the real-world locations are no slouch either. Like, for example, look at this scene where the monkey and Lin are jumping through the treetops.
The monkey is totally in his element while Lin is terrified, and the moods of both characters are conveyed really well by the visuals of the scene. Not only are the clouds a good indication of how high up the scene is, but the sequence alternates between shots above and below them. The shots above the clouds are bathed in this bright, warm sunlight representing the enjoyment and rush the monkey is feeling, while the shots below the clouds are darker and scarier, representing Lin's fear of falling to her death.
Monkey!
Not to mention, there are some neat little flourishes to the animation, like the rainbow colors trailing off the monkey's bow staff during fight scenes, which adds some extra flair to the choreography, gives it a bit of pizzazz. Then there's this montage, which is animated in this 2D brushstroke style. The way the brush textures are constantly moving and shifting gives the animation this cool motion blur effect, which makes the action feel much more flowing and fast-paced. It's definitely the scene where the animation is at its most creative, and when the movie feels the most in line with movies like Intergalactic, Mitchell's vs. the Machines, and Nimona, like I was hoping. Honestly, I just wish the movie had more scenes like it.
But while the movie's art direction is nice, the animation is just kind of standard, which is really apparent in the action scenes.
This is a martial arts movie, so it's pretty important that the action is as good as possible, but really it's just kind of okay. Some of these scenarios are good conceptually, like the characters surfing down a mountain or fighting a wildcat with gauntlets, but the choreography isn't really anything special. The monkey doesn't really do much all that unique or interesting with the bow staff beyond just spinning it and swinging it around. So while the movie is technically nice to look at, the animation is really just fine, and compared to other animated action movies, this just comes across as somewhat tame.
But hey, maybe it's not the end of the world. I mean, I said that the characters are enjoyable, so that's got to be a big point in the movie's favor, right?
Well, unfortunately, even though I find the characters funny, they're ultimately pretty shallow and one-dimensional. Take the monkey, for example. The movie is going for this arc of the jerk protagonist who's really a good guy deep down, but acts mean because he thinks it's the best way to get what he wants out of life. Think along the lines of Nick Wilde from Zootopia.
If the world's only gonna see a fox as shifty and untrustworthy, there's no point in trying to be anything else.
Fine premise, but the problem is that for 99% of the movie, those mean and arrogant aspects of his personality are basically just his entire character.
Throughout the story, he almost never shows any kind of sympathetic traits or any indication that he's changing for the better. He almost always just comes across as a conceited prick. And the few elements of the plot that could actually make him a little endearing to the audience are never really explored all that thoroughly. Like, his backstory of never being able to find someone he loves is just glossed over extremely quickly, and the main crux of the story, that being his blossoming friendship with Lynn, doesn't fare much better. Pretty much all their conversations consist of them making sarcastic or condescending remarks to each other.
You'll never amount to anything. I heard that all the time back home.
Wish I could relate.
You never really get the sense that these two are bonding or challenging each other's worldviews, and it makes for the rare occasions of emotional payoffs between them not really, you know, pay off. Like here, where the monkey sacrifices a goal in order to save Lynn's life.
Admit it. You care.
No,
Say it.
no.
Say I care.
Never.
Come on, admit it.
I admit nothing.
He so cares about me.
It's not completely out of nowhere because the monkey does accidentally mention once or twice that he does care about her.
We're family.
But I can't get emotionally invested because by this point, way more attention has been given to the monkey being utterly disinterested in her and showing a blatant disregard for both her feelings and her safety. Again, I don't dislike him. I think the way he's portrayed as full of himself is good for a laugh, but I wouldn't exactly call his character development interesting. But he's only one half of the buddy duo this movie has to offer. There's also Lynn, and maybe she's interesting, or maybe not, that's another possibility. Again, they try to give her an arc where she's secretly plotting against the monkey because the Dragon King promised to put an end to the drought in her village if she helps defeat him.
Befriend a certain monkey, earn his trust, and take his stick.
Much like with the monkey, the movie tries to make you sympathize with her with the fact that she's trying to save her village, but there's no indication that the village is in any kind of real danger.
We don't see the village struggling to operate with the lack of water, we don't see any villagers suffering from severe dehydration, we never even see the toll this supposed drought has taken on Lynn's life to the point where she would be desperate enough to do this.
But okay, problems aside, during the climax of the movie, the plot actually goes in a bit of a subversive direction that I actually kind of admire. Skip to the time on screen if you want to avoid spoilers.
All right, but get the monkey out of here! This is no zoo! Get it out of here!
So towards the end of the film, both the monkey and the Dragon King get the powers they've been looking for the entire movie, and they have this big climactic battle. As you'd expect, the monkey comes out on top, and everything seems to be resolved. Except, not really.
You did it! You defeated the dragon.
Monkey King reigns supreme!
Now that the Monkey King has what he wanted, we get to see that he hasn't actually learned his lesson and is still extremely power hungry. He basically becomes the villain, and Lin eventually has to be the one to stop him. It makes you realize that those earlier scenes where the monkey's more likable traits being pushed to the side were actually somewhat intentional. This isn't a story about a jerk who learns to be a better person, at least not exclusively. It's about a jerk who fails to learn his lesson and gets punished accordingly. But the movie doesn't just let the monkey's sympathetic qualities go to waste, as the movie ends with him losing everything and everyone in his life, and all he can do is just reflect and try to learn from his mistakes.
Taking on all the gods probably wasn't my best idea.
All the while, they show that he and Lin do still care about each other, even if it's for his own good that she distances herself from him.
You changed my life. I made a difference. We both did. I really am your #1 fan.
Sadly though, while I like what the movie is going for here, I just don't think it's really executed all that well when you look at the story as a whole.
Like I said, the very minimal growth that we see the monkey go through during the movie seems to be deliberate so that it's believable that he would be the bad guy by the end. But the problem with that is that the plot of the movie is essentially a one-dimensional arrogant prick acts like a one-dimensional arrogant prick, and by the end of the movie remains a one-dimensional arrogant prick, which just doesn't make for an interesting story. Not to mention, they have this little scene at the end where 5,000 years have passed and the humans seek out the monkey again to save the world. And despite the fact that the movie tries to make him seem more enlightened, I still don't really buy that he's learned anything.
Come on, Stick! The world needs us.
Oh no.
The ending implies that he's still his same chaotic and destructive self after the movie already spent its entire runtime establishing that the reason he had those traits was because he's an inconsiderate asshole who doesn't care about anyone else's well-being. I get that the audience is meant to look at this and say,
"That's our monkey, am I right?"
but it just undermines what little of an arc the monkey has. So is this movie well thought out? No, not really. Is it up to scratch with some of Netflix's other animated offerings? Not in 5,000 years, quite literally. Is it bad? I wouldn't go that far. Like I said, for as messy and underdeveloped as the script is, I at least got a relatively funny movie with a little bit of personality. If you were looking for a movie that's something along these lines, I'd say just watch Kung Fu Panda. It has a lot of similar traits with it being an animated martial arts fantasy comedy film, but with better realized characters and better action scenes. But if you want something after that, I'd say give this a watch. You'll probably get at least a little bit of enjoyment out of it. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see my future ones even earlier, check out my Patreon in the description below. I'll talk to you later.